Assalamu alaikum. We're going to start lesson 4, which is a short lesson focused on prepositions. So, prepositions are words that appear before nouns and talk about the relationship to that noun. So, it's easiest to take a look at some examples here. So, in this first example, we have fis samai. A sama is a noun, which means the sky. Fi means in or inside. So, fis samai is in the sky. So fi here is the preposition. Another example is ila, which means to or towards. So ila nari, towards the fire. Ala safarin, ala again is a preposition. Safarin is a journey. So ala safarin means on a journey. So ala means on or against. In this case, on is the appropriate translation. So ala safarin, on a journey. Finally, last one that we have here is min Qur'anin. So min is a preposition which means from. Qur'anin, the general word, means recitation. So min Qur'anin is from a recitation. So you'll notice that all of these prepositions, fi, ila, ala, min, they always precede a noun. And that noun is always in the majroor case. So if you go back to our lesson on case endings for nouns, you'll remember that we said that the majroor case, is the case of a noun that appears after a preposition. And is typically indicated by a kasra ending. So fis sama'i. It would be wrong to say fis sama'u. It has to be fis sama'i, ilan nari, ala safarin. This is the indefinite equivalent. Min Qur'anin, again, a recitation. It's indefinite, so we see that double tanween. But in all of these cases, the words are always majroor. So let's take a look at some common prepositions here. So min means from or of. We've seen this one already. Fi means inside or concerning. Li means to or for. So we'll actually go into more depth for li because it appears a lot in the Quran. But generally you can think of it as, for example, alhamdulillahi, alhamdu li Allahi, which means all praise is for Allah. So it can mean to or for. And by the way, you'll see that prepositions they don't always have a perfect translation from one language to another. So the word be, for example, the next preposition, it can mean in, it can mean at, it can mean by, or it can even mean with. And so you have to kind of understand, based on examples, the specific meanings of each of these prepositions. So we have be, which can mean all of these. Here, when we say in, we don't mean physically in. It's more like in the name of Allah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We have ala, which we've seen before, on or against. Ila, to or towards. And it's usually for like physical motion, like I'm going towards the masjid. We have ma'a, which means with. So for example, inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. Indeed, Allah is with those who are patient. Baina means between or among. So, for example, between the Muslims, you could say Bain al Muslimin, between the Muslims or among the Muslims. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about, which is just in terms of writing, you should know this, and that is that single letter prepositions combine with the noun. So, most of these other prepositions, they're separate words. So, if you see, for example, min Makkah, from Makkah, that's written as two separate words. However, if it's one of these single letter prepositions, li or bi for example, then those ones get combined with the word. So let's take a look at a few examples of that. We see li ahlin. So if you see this in the Quran, this is actually not one word. It's actually two words here. Li, which means to or for, and ahlin, a people. So for a people. Another one is birahmatin, by a mercy. Lil ibad, for the servants. Okay, here we have a definite example with al. And you can see that li combines with the al to make lil ibad. Okay. So one thing I want to specifically focus on is li because it's such an important preposition. It appears it appears throughout the Quran. And the common meaning of li is actually to have or to own something. And so let's take a look at this. We'll see a couple of examples here. So, lil kafirina adab. Okay, so lil kafirina adab. the literal translation of this, based on the translation of li that I just told you, would mean to the unbelievers is a punishment, or for the unbelievers is a punishment. The actual kind of idiomatic translation would mean the unbelievers will have a punishment, or the unbelievers have a punishment. Okay, so it just means to have something, or something belongs to something. So even the example I gave before, Alhamdulillah, that literally means the praise to God, but the idiomatic translation is the praise belongs to God. Okay, all praise belongs to God in this case, because we're using al and kind of referring to praise in general. Okay, so let's talk about using prepositions in sentences. So we have this, when you have a preposition followed by a noun, we just call that whole thing a prepositional phrase. So in the sentence, Allahu ma'a sabirin, ma'a and as-sabirin is a prepositional phrase. And so let's take a look at this sentence here. You'll notice a couple of things. First, you have the preposition ma'a. The word after the preposition as-sabirin has to be in the majroor case. So let's take a look at this and confirm. Yes, it is in the majroor case, because if you remember, the sound masculine plural, the way it shows the majroor case and the mansoob case, but we're focused on the majroor case here, is with the ya noon ending. Okay, the ina ending means majroor or mansoob. What is the original ending of asabirin? The original ending, the marfu' ending, is sabirun instead of sabirin. But because of the presence of this preposition, it becomes as-sabirin. Now, one other thing you'll notice is that the prepositional phrase appears after the subject of the sentence. So we say, Allahu ma'a sabirin. God is with the patient ones. And this is going to be the typical ordering if the subject is definite. Okay, because Allah, the word Allah is definite, right? Because we're referring to one God, Allah specifically. This is a definite word, and so the prepositional phrase appears afterwards. We'll see what happens when the subject is indefinite shortly. But let's take a look at another example here. Al-zalimuna fi dalalim mubin. This is a very important example, so we'll break it down. So first of all, we'll notice that the subject appears first. Al-zalimun, the wrongdoers. What case is this in? This is in marfu', right? This is in marfu' because of the al-zalimuna, una ending. You'll notice it's also definite, which means the prepositional phrase will appear afterwards. Fi dalalim mubin. Fi means in. Dalal means error, and mubin means clear or manifest error. Or mubin means clear or manifest, and when used in this, when used to describe this noun, dalalim mubin means manifest error. Now you'll notice that dalal has a double kasra. Why does it have a double kasra? It has a double kasra because it's preceded by fi, which puts it in majroor case. Now mubin, because it's an adjective that's describing the noun dalal, it has to agree with the noun on all four criteria. The four criteria being, is it definite or indefinite? We'll notice that it's indefinite in both of these cases. It has to agree on gender. It turns out both of these words are masculine. It has to agree in singularness or pluralness, and both of these words are singular. And it has to agree on case ending. And in this case, because dalalin ended with a kasra, in fact a double kasra, so does mubin, ends in a kasra as well. So al-zalimuna fi dalalin mubin. So you have a lot of the rules that we've talked about in previous lessons and this lesson coming together in this example. Let's do one more example here. As-sadaqatu lil-fuqara'i. Alms, or charity here, is for the poor. Is for the poor. So as-sadaqat again is definite, so the prepositional phrase, which looks like one word, but remember what we just studied, li combines with the noun. So you actually have two separate words here, a preposition and the noun that is being applied to. So as-sadaqatu, charity, is for the poor. Lil fuqara'i. And again, why is it e? It's because it's in majroor case, because of the li preceding it. Now, so we talked about the case where the subject is definite. If it's indefinite, the order actually inverts. So this is kind of interesting the first time you see it. It seems a little unusual perhaps, but the prepositional phrase appears before the subject. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. فِي الْأَرْضِ فَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. It turns out that the subject is actually فَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. And the way that you know that is because it's in marfu'. And we said marfu', fasadun, that's when something is a subject. So fasad means corruption. Kabir means great. So great corruption. Okay, and you'll notice that again, the adjective agrees with the noun in the case endings, fasadun kabirun, as well as the other three criteria. Now, you'll notice that this is indefinite. We're not talking about a specific corruption. We're talking about corruption in general. Okay, so we're saying there's much corruption or there's great corruption on earth. So we'll put the phrase on earth actually before the subject of the sentence. So fil ardi fasadun kabirun. The prepositional phrase appears first. And one other note I'll mention here, which is that you might expect it to be ala al-ardi fasadun kabirun. On earth there is much corruption, but that's just idiomatic. So every language has slightly different usage of prepositions. In English we say on earth, but in Arabic we say in earth or fil ardi. Okay, the same way, in English, you might say on Tuesday, but you say in 2005. You just have to kind of understand that with years you use in, with days you use on. And similarly, with certain words you use fi, and for certain words you use ala. So let's take a look at ala here on the next example. Ala al-a'rafi rijalun. Again, we see that the subject of the sentence appears afterwards. We know it's the subject because of the un ending, and we know it's indefinite because there's no al, and we're just referring to men in general. So there are men on the heights. Ala al-a'rafi means the heights. Rijalun appears afterwards. We'll end with some exercises here. So this was a relatively short lesson, and so let's just focus on memorizing these prepositions. So go back and memorize these 8 prepositions if you don't already know them. And then let's go ahead and apply it to some examples. بين السماء والأرض, between the heavens and the earth. Okay, so sama can mean sky or heavens. In this case I translate it as heavens. The thing that I want you to remember is that the word after bayna has to be majroor, and actually so does the other word here, because bayna kind of applies to both of them. We're saying bayna samai wal ard, between the heavens and the earth. So both of them become majroor. Okay. Bayna al-mu'minin, among the believers. Again, we see that mu'minin is in the majroor case. In this case, it's not a kasra, but an ina ending. Okay, the next example is a good one here. Ma'al qawmil zalimin. So here, what you're seeing actually is this first phrase. This first word here is with. Ma'a, we said, means with. Al-qawm means the people. With the people. Al-zalimina is an adjective referring to qawm. What does it mean? It means the wrongdoers or the wrongdoing. So here, what we have here, the full translation would be with the wrongdoing people. Now you will notice, and you can confirm for yourself, that both of these are in majroor case. Ala hudan, on guidance. Okay, so this one, this is an example where we have an indefinite word following a preposition. Ala hudan. Now why is it hudan instead of hudin, for example? Now this is, if you go back to the case endings lesson that we talked about, you'll remember that we said that there are certain words that just simply do not change their ending, no matter what case that they're in. So if they're mansub, marfu', majroor, in all 3 of these cases, they're always going to be the an ending. So hudan is one of those words. So ala hudan means on guidance. Now, by the way, if you're struggling with vocabulary, so some of these vocabulary words may be new to you, and that's completely normal, I'm linking the Chrome extension that I described in lesson 1 again here underneath this video. You can actually go ahead and install that Chrome extension, and that'll show you a new word in Arabic along with this translation every time you open up a new tab. So you'll slowly, kind of just naturally start to pick up Arabic vocabulary. We'll end with 3 more exercises here. Billahi. Billahi means with Allah. Bi means with, Allahi with Allah, with God. Bil akhirati, with the hereafter. Again, similar setup here. We end up with the word after bi has a kasra ending. And then finally I have one more here. Bushra lil muslimin. Bushra lil muslimin. What does that mean here? Bushra means good news, and lil muslimin means for the Muslims. Good news for the Muslims, or the Muslims have good news. Remember, li can just mean have or belongs. So good news belongs to the Muslims. And al muslimina, it's also in majrur case, as you can confirm for yourself. Alright, well with that we'll end today's lesson on prepositions. I'll see you next time inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.